guys, and welcome to another episode of Tribe TV. Today I wanted to talk about something that I think is super interesting and that I think is actually really big news in the EOSIO ecosphere. And of course, Tribe has a media partnership with Worbli. In this particular case, this is not any sponsored video as such, just a little bit of a forewarning. This is not investment advice. This is not a invitation or a solicitation for anybody to buy any particular token. The token I'm referring to today is a security token. This is not a promotion of a security token. I'm just talking about a token that is coming to Worbli that I think is really interesting. So I'm not trying to convince anybody to buy it. I'm just saying, hey, this is happening. I think it's interesting. And I'm just kind of providing some information on that particular token and some of the effect that it might actually have on the ecosphere and on kind of the Worbli ecosystem itself. Now, Worbli has promised for a long time that they're going to bring some commercial scale blockchain applications. And one thing that Dominic has talked about a lot is the fact that this term really gets tossed around a lot. And a lot of the times it doesn't necessarily have anything to back it up. But I think that with this first announcement of one of the applications that's coming to Worbli being a security token offering, because of course this is a security, this is one of the first times that we're ever seeing anything done in the same manner in this particular case that is actually being done according to proper regulatory framework. And this is really a promise, in my opinion, on a delivery of a promise, rather, on something that they said they were going to do. They said they wanted to build real applications with real world consequences and real world impact. And I think that the Tokenoro announcement is just something that's really exciting. I think that it hasn't been done before. And I think that it's kind of a really cool premiere announcement for Worbli as their kind of first flagship application coming to the ecosphere. So before I get into too much, let's take a look at one of the press releases they put out today. So essentially, Tokenoro is a mining company that is going to allow people to invest into a security where half of the money gets kept in gold and the other half of the money goes into exploration. So the release goes on to say that Tokenoro is a gold mining business operated by a highly experienced team of business, commodity, and mining professionals. For companies like Tokenoro, Worbli powers the ability to expand the liquidity base, enabling a more cost-effective and wide-reaching distribution capability. So what does this mean? Typically offering this type of an investment using smart contracts really takes out a lot of kind of the paperwork and allows them to reach out to a larger pool of investors, because when you start taking out some of the red tape involved in terms of the documentation and the processing of some of these applications, and you can take some smart contracts and kind of phase out a lot of the headwork, it becomes a much less expensive process and allows them to be able to offer it to a wider range of people. So how exactly does Tokenoro work? Kind of the short version, it's a token with a solid floor and a flexible ceiling. It actually works that when you purchase a Tokenoro token, 50% of that goes to purchase gold certificates and or cash that's going to be placed in a secure, insured gold vault, and then 50% of that is actually going to go into mining operations. So the company already has multiple global mining projects. We're not talking about some company that has no experience mining. We're talking about a legitimate mining company that has a bunch of projects that are happening currently. Projects are located in Montana, Nevada, and Africa. And each mine has been tested. It's gone through the geological surveys that cost millions of dollars. And they have kind of a target of how much gold they're going to be able to extract. This is going to allow opportunity for people to be able to share in some of the profits. We haven't seen this done properly. We haven't seen it done in a regulatory framework and tokenized in the same way that this project is electing to do it. So kind of the key modus operandi of Worbli is ultimately being compliant. It is AML KYC compliant. The chain of both companies are transparent. Follow all the security regulations for public listed companies, which allows investors, according to the documentation, greater rights, protections, and expectations, while also really clarifying the duties and obligations of the issuer of the tokens. So in my personal opinion, this is really big news. It's really interesting news because it really does set that precedent of the kind of things that we're going to be seeing on Worbli. And according to this project, the kind of things that we're going to be seeing on Worbli are real businesses doing real things, tokenization of assets. And that's something that I'm particularly passionate about because I think that tokenization of assets in a large regard is something that's going to create a lot of accessibility and just bring a lot more financial investing options to the cryptocurrency space, do it in a regulated market to the point that they're not going to be shut down by the SEC, that they're kind of working within the framework of regulatory control. So you know that when you're investing in this kind of a thing, it's insured, it's backed up, it's a real company, and it's a real product. So of course, you want to check it out for yourself, head over to www.tokenoro.com. I'm going to make sure that I list that below, and it has a lot of information. So in essence, stability in an unstable market, the future is golden, solid floor and a flexible ceiling. Why Tokenoro? International governments continually operating in budget deficits and printing fiat, because that's a real problem. Keep printing that paper, and a lot of kind of the Western markets, it's not really backed up by anything. So a lot of people are looking to gold as kind of a safe haven. Once again, it talks about the way that half of that goes into purchase gold certificates and or cash. And the other 50% is going to go into mining operations of mines that they've already scattered out. So the team that they have lined up is a legitimate team with a ton of experience in the industry, of course, really, really strong technical background in mining. So here we are on the white paper, which you can access if you go into the site. Why issue an asset-backed security token? And it goes on to just talk about by tokenizing assets, smaller companies can raise capital from a larger pool of global investors, which can be done quickly without having to absorb a bunch of legal costs. The value of the US currency versus gold has been decreasing, which is kind of an interesting point and probably pretty accurate. It's usually not recognized. Most focus on just the price of gold, and it doesn't really examine the relationship between currency and the actual price of gold. So it goes on to provide kind of 3 examples of companies that are really doing the same thing. And then it talks about that these companies may be on the right track because they're attempting to provide what the market is lacking, safe tokens backed by real assets and a real business. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about Worbli and some of the stuff that they're doing. There are other tokens that are backed, in essence, by gold, but this is kind of also giving you a little bit of a leverage in the sense that it's also going towards mining operations, and there hasn't been anybody who has done this to date in an offering, particularly in a legal compliant STO. $500 goes into an operating account. So the capital provided by Tokenoro investors will be used to develop already identified superior gold mining projects. These are projects that have already been vetted, geologically surveyed, and are ready for extraction. So some are ready to enter short-term production, 3 to 6 months, some medium-term, 6 to 24 months, and others may be simple exploration, or projects that are either unknown or abandoned by the traditional mining community. So the investment will be more highly weighted on short-term projects, and it's not really targeting exploration projects at this point. So when gold or income is received from the investment, the vault is going to receive 50% of any of the net gold received or any cash received from it, and 50% of that income will be reinvested into producing gold. So a really interesting, cool project. For once, you can actually almost own a part of a gold mine, in the sense that you own a certain amount of gold and you're actually receiving dividends from the production that they're already doing of a lot of sites that are already registered and already have the potential. They just need to go in there and start tapping it out. Talks about a few of the advantages here as well. Compliance, of course, which is the modus operandi, as I said earlier, of Worbli and what they're trying to accomplish there. They're trying to do some really new, cool things, but they also want to keep it compliant so that it protects the integrity of the network, the integrity of token holders, and the integrity of the investors themselves. A growing gold vault, so over time, as the mines produce and the vault grows, of course, the value of the token is going to increase. And the token ceiling is going to be determined by the nature of that market, the amount of gold that flows into it, right? So, of course, as the vault gets wider and starts to expand, that ceiling is going to go higher. And it talks about kind of Bitcoin doesn't really have a price floor, and because they're not really asset backed, they're really volatile. But in Tokenoro, because it's gold backed, it means that the value of the token shouldn't really fall below a value that's based on the price of gold. They're planning on putting together kind of a simple app for it, which is going to be continuously updated with the price of gold. So you can kind of check your investment as it moves along, which is a really kind of interesting thing. You can see kind of what's happening with both the price of gold and what's going on with the gold vault as it grows from the other 50% investment that you're making. First mandate is to increase the price of that vault. So it talks about the actual projects itself inside of the white paper. Projects that are up and running, or the projects that they're planning on putting some of the resources into. So one thing that I really like about this project is they're just openly transparent. They're not trying to fight the fact that, oh, we're not a security. They're not trying to sweep anything under the rug. They say, plainly, Tokenoro is a security under the definition of the Security Act. As such, it's going to comply with the provisions of the Act. It will not try to save money by not registering. by being in full compliance, the investor can receive the type of protection that was originally intended under that act. It basically says that the first offering is going to be issued to accredited investors. And ultimately, because it is a security, they need to stay in compliance. And to be honest with you, I might not be an accredited investor, but I would rather that it's done properly and it's executed properly than for them to get shut down. They can't afford to screw up here. Like it's got to be, everything's got to be done properly. And that's kind of the promise of Worbli. So the company basically just wants to make sure that it's going to be done, it's going to be sold to people, that they're following all the right rules, and that ultimately they're not going to get snagged by the SEC. The fact that we can even do that is mind-blowing in itself. The fact that we can even author security tokens and STOs on Worbli to me is amazing. I love the tokenization of assets. I love the precedent that this is setting. I just think it's super interesting. I think what this talks about is the fact that Worbli isn't screwing around, pardon my language, but they're not. They're doing real things with real investment. And I think that this is going to inject a lot of money into the Worbli ecosystem, which is good for Worbli token holders alike. There's a huge market cap potential with this particular token, and it's like a real thing by guys who have real mining operations. It's a legitimate business. I think that this is a really great start for Worbli. I think this is super exciting news. And quite frankly, I think that it's going to do really, really well. So I really recommend that if you're a gold bug, if you're into Worbli, if you're into tokenization of assets, come and check this website out. I'm going to make sure I leave a link below. But mostly, I want to know what you guys think. I want to know how you feel. I want to know if you're interested in this, if you think that it's kind of a cool thing, if you think that this is kind of setting the precedent for some really interesting things to happen in a compliant framework within the Worbli ecosystem. I know that this is just one of a lot of really, really cool investment opportunities that are coming up. I'm personally really, really excited by this. I think you should be too. But again, I want to know what you think. So make sure you leave some comments below. I want to know what you guys think of Tokenoro. And I want to know what you guys think about the future of Worbli. Does the future of Worbli look bright? Are security token offerings a good thing? Is this kind of... Do you think that this will help to pave adoption? I personally do. I just think it's all really exciting. I think it's super interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I look forward to kind of bringing you some separate news about Worbli kind of through Tribe TV as we move along.